morning, everybody, and welcome to the Nairnshire Committee. It's good to be back, meeting in public. Apologies for the restriction in numbers, but we're following the recommendation from the services team. I'm sure that everybody is aware that this is a meeting held in public and not a public meeting. I would remind all members of the public present today that you must not try and interrupt proceedings or express your views during the committee meeting. You are here to observe only and not to take part in the debate. Anyone not respecting these requirements will result in the meeting being adjourned and then being excluded from the remainder of the committee meeting. So, on that basis, they understand how we're proceeding. We'll move to apologies.
No apologies, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. So we'll move on to item 3, which is the Inner Murray Firth proposed local development plan, and I'll hand over to Mr. Delgarno and Mr. Chisholm to introduce the proposed plan.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members, and good afternoon, members of the public. Thanks for taking us today to your area committee. We're here to seek progress with the next stage of preparing the Inner Murray Firth local development plan. And in particular, the committee is being asked to agree the Council's response to issues raised through the consultation, including some suggested amendments to be highlighted for the next stage of the process. So you're being asked to agree the Council's opinion for reference through to examination. A quick recap on what have got us to this stage. We've been through several consultation stages, various meetings and discussions over the last couple of years. The stage that we're at is at that yellow box, highlighted in the yellow box there, whereby there are 6 area committees who each have a collective responsibility for the area content of the local development plan, and this is Area Committee 4 of 6. And then there is a final Economy and Infrastructure Committee, which is the plan making, the strategic committee rather for plan making for the council, who have responsibility for, unsurprisingly, agreeing the strategic elements of the plan. And that collective view will then be referenced through to examination. So you're being asked to approve the area content for the Nairnshire area today. To feedback on the consultation itself, we had a really good response rate relative to other consultations that we've had. Over 1,200 comments made through the proposed plan that was held, the consultation for which was held between March and June this year. Of the comments that are being referenced to you today, most of those are about the local detail and concern. You know, there's a number of different concerns that have been raised about specific sites and how they might be implemented, what particular uses might be attributed to those sites. And what we have before you today, members, is a set of recommendations that we believe respond positively to those issues and firm up the council's and accordingly firm up the council's view for reference to examination. So we have, as the third bullet point indicates, we have an opportunity to adjust that council position before it is referenced through to examination. And we hope that you consider and reflect positively on the changes that have been made or are being recommended to you, rather, in light of the comments that have been made through the consultation. Before I pass to Douglas, who's going to give that overview of the suggested changes that are before you today for approval, I just wanted to give some reassurance that we believe that the Appendix 1, which outlines the suggested changes in full, can handle the issues that have been raised to you around the bypass and the delivery of the N86 bypass as a key infrastructure requirement for Nairnshire growth, Nairn town growth in particular, but also that it can deal with the infrastructure issues for particular sites. And indeed, this is about providing for the community now and in the future, and we are hopeful that it sets a positive context for ongoing work between all partners who have an interest in the town, not least for the preparation of a local place plan, but also for the preparation of a development brief for one of the key sites to the east, which we know there's some strong views that have been submitted to the council for your consideration, members. But we do believe that we can shape those issues through that ongoing work together as partners. I'll pass to Douglas, who will give you a quick summary of those particular changes that have been put to you for consideration before running through the next steps. Thank you.
Good morning, members and members of the public. So I'm just going to, what's on screen is essentially headlines of suggested changes. There's a wide range of changes, some fairly minor, and there's some more substantial. So I'm just going to concentrate on the ones that we feel are the most significant in Nairnshire. So the first one, we're in response to specifically Nairn River Community Council's suggestion for additional placemaking priority, which is what is a guiding criteria for planning and investment decisions. Placemaking priorities is to identify another one which promotes new and protects existing employment land and supports new employment opportunities. Also, there is responding to comments about NEO2, the former Showfield East. Many concerns about the impact on the green space and the function it has for the community, the sporting and recreational function. So we want to suggest to the reporter that community is added to the list of uses, so it'll be housing on community. In terms of Sandown, respecting the decision that was made in August, and also the wide range of comments, objections that were received in the plan, we're looking to remove any reference to the Sandown development and reduce that indicative capacity down, but retain it within the plan for a level of flexibility. The decision to dispose of it will always rest in your hands. So, as was agreed in August, there's an ongoing process there to consider future uses. So, I guess a substantial change that we've taken and put in front of you today is that both NEO5 near East and NEO6 east of the retail park, that those sites are essentially wholly dependent on the A96 being delivered. So that's set out as the top line in the developer requirements in the plan. That is a prerequisite to development. Also, in relation to Nairn East, the NEO5 site, there's explicit reference in the plan for the provision of employment land at Grigger Hill to allow businesses to expand and new businesses to be located there. The amount of land will be agreed through a further assessment of the actual business needs in the area. And finally, add reference, explicit reference to protecting the existing businesses at NEO5 near East as well. So a lot tighter in terms of how we protect those businesses. So that's a summary of the suggestions we're making from the Scottish Government as presented to you. I'll pass back to Scott.
Thank you, Douglas. So, members, the recommendations are before you today for your consideration. I'm happy to take any questions on any of those. Your approval today will, as I say, follow any approval by the committee today will follow those other committees. So will be followed by those other committees considering the full coverage of the plan, and then, as I say, the Economy and Infrastructure Committee is on the 2nd of February, and that would approval by that committee would trigger the submission of the plan. The objections, any comments that don't align with the ultimate view of all of the committees will be submitted to the reporter for their consideration. So an independent process of scrutiny by that reporter to look at all those comments that have been made and to decide and make binding recommendations to the council on what the final plan ought to look like. It's expected that the examination process would take anything around 9 months, with the reporter's report therefore anticipated towards end of 2023, start of 2024, and adoption in early 2024. So members, I trust you're content with that, and you're satisfied with that overview of the suggested changes in light of the comments received, and we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Durgarno. I think it's fair to say that nobody here wants development at NA5 or NA6 ahead of completion of the A96 Nairn bypass. We only agree on how best to achieve that. I would highlight page 23 of the attached impact on the transport network. Quote, given the poor existing network, the completion and operation of the A96 Nairn bypass is essential, and no development should take place until it is complete. Page 48, transport A96 bypass. The ability to deliver development of this scale in Nairn, in which is in line with the National Transport Strategy, is therefore predicated to a large extent on the delivery of the A96 bypass. Accordingly, the Council would request that if the reporter is so minded, the following statement is inserted at the beginning of the list of developers' requirements. Quote, delivery of the A96 Nairn bypass is a prerequisite to the development of NA5, Nairn East and NA06 east of the retail park. Now, reinforcing, and we'll return to this, what Mr. Durgarno has already said, I would quote the advice given to members from Karen Lyons, the Principal Planning Solicitor, who many of you will know from the Nairn South campaign and who both Councillor and myself hold in high regard. And I quote Ms Lyons, it is important to note that the current Inner Murrayfirth Local Development Plan was adopted 7 years ago. As plans age, less weight is attributed to them when determining planning applications. One consequence of delay at this stage in the process to replace a plan is that a plan vacuum, I'll repeat that phrase, a plan vacuum occurs and communities are exposed to the uncertainty caused by a planning by application appeal approach to decision makings. Therefore, having a plan which categorically states that there will be no development at NA05 Nairn East or NA06 Nairn east of the retail park prior to the completion of the A96 Nairn bypass will considerably strengthen our ability to prevent development ahead of the bypass than having to rely on a 7-year-old plan. Mr. Durgarno, would you like to comment on Ms Lyons' view that we are in a stronger position to prevent development at NA05 and NA06 with the adoption of this plan?
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of a development plan is to provide us with a robust and defensible position to best control and steer future development. What's been put forward to you today, members, is what is believed to be the most appropriate and suitable plan for future development for current and future communities. And it's obviously complemented by a developer requirement for ways in which we can deal with the infrastructure issues. But also in particular how we continue that ongoing work through the preparation of the development brief to ensure that the build out and phasing of that development is suitable and appropriate. So yeah, in the crude answer to your questions, I would back up the position that Karen's, the advice that Karen's providing, that it gives us that robust and defensible position for future delivery of development in them.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll open that up and I'll put that to the Vice Chair, Councillor Golden.
Yes, Chair, you intend to go through each of the sites?
Yes.
In turn, okay. Well, for now, I do have a question, obviously, on NA5 and NA6, but I'd just like to thank Scott and Douglas for taking on board our concerns and making changes with regards to this stage.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, initially we had, was it 1,000 houses to the east was planned, and now we're reducing that to 250. Is that?
Well, essentially the full extent of development is ranged at 650 or 850 homes for the whole of Nairn East. But the plan has put forward that 250 could be effective within the next 10 years. So
10 years.
Yeah, and that's then also predicated on the delivery of the A96 bypass as well.
On the A96 bypass first, yes. Okay.
Okay.
That covers my.
Okay. Right, well, we'll move through.
Barbara.
Sorry?
Barbara.
Barbara, sorry. Sorry, she was meant to be here, I forgot. My apologies. Councillor Jarvie.
Oh, he's gone silent.
She's no.
Well,
You're muted.
I think we need to try and get her.
650.
You're muted. Ah, there you go.
Is that me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Douglas, were you saying that it will still be between 650 to 850 planned for that area? Houses?
That's correct. In the long term, beyond the planned period, the complete indicative capacity, and it is only an indicative capacity that we've given at this stage. So, you know, the development brief would be the mechanism to put a bit more flesh on that.
Microphone.
To put more flesh on it. So who would be involved in putting on more flesh?
Chair, if you may.
Yeah,
Are you waiting for
absolutely.
the
Sorry.
place plan for that?
Thanks, Councillor Jarvie. I mean, our suggestion would be that obviously for that site in particular, the development brief is a key mechanism. It's a key tool for us collectively to shape how that development comes forward. And obviously there are a number of critical issues that are being put forward for your consideration today, not least the uses that would be attributed to that site and how you get a balanced growth, a balanced distribution of housing, of employment uses, etc., in order to deal with the balanced growth of the community now and in the future. So there's the development brief, but there's also a chance to, as we're being reminded all the time, to prepare a local place plan. And that is a key mechanism that the council will be there to support and which can shape both a development brief if the timing is right, but also any future plan. And as ever, we along with other parts of the council and other public agencies are here to support and the preparation of that plan by the community. Thank you.
Okay. So Jarvie, have you other points to make?
Yes, no, that's really good that you're keen to support the community with the local police plan, and as councillors, I think that is good that we support that as well. So the local police plan, as you're aware, has not been prepared as yet. However, this is going forward. So would decisions still be included from the local place plan, or would they have to wait 5 years, maybe up to 7 years again, before the next development plan? That's a really important question. If there's a place plan made and they have to wait 5 to 7 years for anything to be included, because in the Community Empowerment Act, it's all about local place plans enhancing the community and local development plans enhancing the community for the needs of the community. So this is what today's focus seriously needs to be about. And these two documents should work together as a working way forward for the area. So if there's going to be a delay until the next review for the next development plan, that means nothing in a local place plan will be considered, and that's a bit long.
Okay,
so I think we need something written in here that the local place plan, once it's done, will be considered in with the local delivery plan if this one goes ahead today.
Okay, Mr. Delgarno, can you comment on that?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks for the question, Councillor Jarvie. I'll offer wholehearted support to yourself, and I know there's many others in this room who feel the same way about the role, the positive role that the local place plan can play, and that's why we are, genuinely quite excited about supporting that process. What the issues that it can influence with in the position that in the event that the development plan is taken through to examination and beyond, the local place plan, if the timing is right, can inform any issues that need, any more detailed issues that need to be looked at through the preparation of things like a development brief for that particular site that is of obvious interest to many in the community, and it can also influence a future plan position as well. So that is a rather roundabout way of saying it won't necessarily be influencing this plan process.
Okay,
But if
so
it
that's
was
a no.
available, that's a no. But if it was available, I'm outlining the positive steps it can play. And if the timing was right, I'm sure a reporter would want to see a local place plan if it was available during the course of that examination being undertaken. But it can play a very positive role, and we look forward to supporting that activity. Okay,
thank you. Councillor Jarvie, I would just like to stress the importance of getting our local place plan fully resourced and started. An Nairn place plan fully representative of the views and aspirations of the people and businesses of Nairn would enable Nairn to move forward and develop its full potential. And hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be coming back and announcing the resources that we will have in place to move forward with the local place plan. That's a real priority for us. I look around the Highlands, you look at Fort William 2040, you look at Inverness Futures, you look at Skye and Rossie, they have got their place plan in place. We need to get it as our #1 priority to get that developed to coincide with the timetable. So that will be our focus for the 4 local councillors to get that in place, as you well know, as we've discussed. So if you're comfortable with that, Councillor Jarvie, is there any other points you'd like to raise before we go into the site-specific discussion?
Yeah, I'm just concerned that without the consideration of a local place plan, it can be deferred on the back boiler there for maybe, I mean, it was 7 years since the second Inner Murray Firth development plan. You know, that could leave Nairn stagnating for 7 years. And well, the west coast of the Highlands has had massive investment. You know, it was needed, it's been well supported, it's literally had millions. The East Coast has not had the same support and environment by miles. And the bypass is a key part. And this Inner Murray Firth development plan that stretches right up the coast. The bypass is the golden carrot. It really is to this Inner Murray Firth development plan. The bypass it's not just a need for Nairn, it's for the entire coast. And to just have it in there as...
Councillor Jarvie, there's nobody here disagrees with you.
Yeah.
How crucially, vitally important the A96 Nairn bypass is. Everything is predicated on that.
Yeah, and nothing's concrete about it, still.
Absolutely. And getting our local place plan, it's incumbent on us to move forward that ASAP, which is what we're doing. So I can give assurances that we will be moving forward with the local place plan with resources in place very, very shortly.
Yeah, but it says in the document that it's not going to be considered, which really bothers me, even though it's going to be HIE are going to be involved. Actually, it's really a shame that y'all missed out on the meeting the other night about the local place plan, because there was excellent presentations at it, and I actually thought that somebody from here would have done a presentation from the top table how the place plan and the Inner Murray Firth development plan could have worked, and that really would have got a lot of trust from the public, and it would have explained how the two can marry really well together, which is what the Community Empowerment Act is all about. And the NE04, that isn't out. That is not finalised. We're still on a draft status. And that's, you know, it's really important.
Councillor Jarvie, you've made some very valid points there, and it's incumbent on us to move forward. As we said, actions speak louder than words, and we will move forward with the local place plan ASAP. We'll move through the specific sites, and you'll get to raise the points you want in NA04 as we move through them. Mr. Delgarno would like to make some points about timing. He did actually touch on this earlier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you. But perhaps I could try and come back on those points, Councillor Jarvie, just to make sure the question has been answered. Because if I can take them if I can take the local place plan first. It's unfortunate I couldn't make the meeting the other night. I gave apologies through Alistair Noble for the meeting the other night, and I was really looking forward to being there, but had to was called away to another meeting elsewhere, unfortunately, and I know that others were in a similar unfortunate situation and couldn't make it. But I'm reflecting here at committee today the appetite to support the local community in preparing that plan, and that has been the message that we have made loud and clear at every single stage through the process. And I know that there's community members that will understand that we are there to support you every step of the way. We are also, we're there to clarify and help understand the complementary role that the local development plan and interrelationship rather that the local development plan and the local place plan can have. But the fact is that you don't have a local place plan before you for consideration as part of this local development plan. It's just we've not the community at large, ourselves included, we haven't got to a point where that place plan is prepared yet. Had it been, and that is a community-led local place plan. To be clear, we council cannot lead that, but we're there to support you. And and the sooner we get that plan in place, the sooner it can be considered. The best we can do is for that reporter to get issues raised to them that from an early stage in that local place plan production. But we can't simply magic your local place plan out of thin air for consideration in this plan process. And that's unfortunate, but we're there to support you. In terms of the final point, if I may, Chair, just on the A96, it is to say that we recognise the point you make about the A96 being so critical for the whole region, and indeed the papers before you and are to go before the Strategic Committee on the 2nd of February outline just how important the delivery of the A96 between Inverness and Aldern is for the strategic growth and the sustainable transport movements of everyone living, working and visiting the Highlands. So we'll continue the push for that to be progressed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Delgarno. Just for clarification, Councillor Jarvie, I was unable to attend. I was down in Oban. I had to go down to substitute for the Chair of Economy and Infrastructure in a meeting, and I'd given my apologies into the meeting. Councillor Oldham had similar apologies put in. He had to be elsewhere on long-standing commitments. It's not that we didn't want to be there, and it's not that there was any detrimental message being put out to the local place plan. We will be in the vanguard of the local place plan. Let's put it that way. We know that, and I can only but stress the message that goes out. The local place plan is number one as we move forward.
Thank you, Chair.
We can move.
Yeah, and Dr. Noble did pass on your apologies, so all the public were aware that you did send apologies. But I do feel from HQ, from the planners, sorry, Scott, but yeah, it was a team that wrote that document, and I'm sure someone from that team could have attended. And I think it would have carried a lot of weight and favour with the public, because there was actually really good presentations about how Nairn was shaped and how we should look at how it needs shape for the future, rather than a developer-led project with housing targets. It's the needs of the town, like healthcare, housing that is specifically for healthcare staff to look after the most elderly population. Why not have the locals build the bypass? The skills are here. We have the civil engineering skills in Nairn. You know, it would fit in with the ecological targets, your climate change. There's so many factors. And I really think there needs to be something written in this document that includes consideration for the reporter, if it's going to go at that stage, about giving due regard to the local place plan. So you cannot turn around and ignore a local place plan for 5 to 7 years. Neither do I want the local place plan rushed. That would not be good for Nairn, because we want as many groups to be involved in it. And at that meeting the other night, It was not a closed circle. There was plenty of people that had never even been to a community council. Lots of different areas of groups that turned out that want to be involved in a say in Nairn. It's the most widespread.
Councillor Jarvie, I appreciate what you're saying, and that's valued.
I don't think so.
Well, okay. Anything that was there, presentations, information, that will all be fed into the local place plan. The most important thing is to crack on with the local place plan. Anything that was there on Thursday night will be fed into the local place plan.
Yes, but will the local place plan go with this Inner Murray Firth development plan? This one. That is what is key.
You can only play with the cards that are in front of you, and as you quite rightly say, we don't want to rush it. We'll get one chance at this, and we want to get it right. So I don't think the two aims are incompatible. So I think we'll take it there. Unless there's anybody else just to comment, we'll move on to the specific sites. Unless Councillor Jarvie, you have anything else to say?
If I could just, if I could just point out, there is already a reference, as I was saying, there's placemaking priorities which are key criteria for shaping decisions, and one of those, which there's 8 or 9, is to support the delivery of a community-led local place plan for Nairn and its role in helping to shape development and investment decisions. So there is already a reference in it. We've also referenced it within the what we call the Schedule 4, our submission to the report there for examination, where it highlights that the area local place plan or local place plan, however it comes forward, is it, and also any other further evidence that and information that is produced and compiled will inform future decisions, especially any kind of development brief for that area. And as we're saying, that development brief wouldn't come forward until the 6 bypass is delivered. So there's sufficient time for a local place plan to shape the development of that site in particular, but across the whole Nairnshire.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Could we have added into that? Sorry, it's so important, that placemaking priority about the local place plan, that when the local place plan is ready, it goes with the current development plan. That would make a massive difference, massive, and it would give a lot of credit and respect to the people of Nairn and involve all these groups. And we really need to end this battle between Highland Council and Nairn. The two documents need to work. They need to work together.
Absolutely, Councillor Jarvie. That's no.
So once it is formed, it works with this document.
Okay, I'll just make the point. It's not a debate. We're to make points and make the points, and then we sort of move on. So, right, we'll go through this site by site, and I would ask members to make one contribution on and put all the points in the one contribution. As I says, we don't want this to get down into a long-standing debate. That's not the role of this. So we'll move forward. 6.2, and we'll start with Aldern. Councillor Oldham, have you?
I've had no references for Aldern, and I'm happy with what's been proposed.
Laurie, you have
no problem with Aldern.
Okay, I would just raise, and I think this is very important, concerns with flooding and the drainage impact. Well, with the experiences at Loch Loy, gee whiz, there needs to be a rigorous assessment of any drainage schemes or anything that comes forward. That really needs to happen. So I'm just raising that point that where we've experienced massive problems elsewhere, we don't wish to create similar situations at Aldern. So we'll move on. We'll go to, I've got NA4, Sandown. Do you want to make any comments, councillors?
I don't think it's the time, but...
Well, we're awaiting a consultation on that. So, you know, it's awkward that there's a lot more factors than just the place plan. You know, it's the Sandown has taken a lengthy time
Well,
to get a
Councillor Jarvie,
resolution. So,
okay. We'll deal with Sandown. That's an item further on. But as things stands, I'm happy with what's included in the plan for Sandown. NA05 and NA06, I think we've dealt with, and I think.
Some questions for that.
Okay, Councillor Oldham, you've got.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions for Scott and Douglas. The first thing is that we've had comments from landowners at Gregor Hill who commented they're concerned about the development brief, and they're feeling that it will be produced by Springfield, not by community and businesses. So I wonder whether you could comment on that. The other thing is that my suspicion is that something called the agents of change principle is going to help those businesses. I wonder whether you could speak to that as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the expectation that is outlined in the development plan is that development briefs would be prepared by the prospective developers of the site, the agents and the representatives for the site, but under very clear terms and following a collaborative approach. And to supplement that, obviously, that collaborative approach, I should say, would involve, all partners that have an interest having to be involved and clearly contributing to that process. That's something we've, stated as a clear requirement from the early stage of having this site identified. The second thing to mention is that we've talked today already a lot about the hope that a local place plan might inform that exercise, and my suggestion is you wouldn't necessarily have to have a fully fledged local place plan for it to have weight in that process of to shape how that development is implemented in the end. I think partners would be encouraged to work together early on and to clearly steer and make a robust position to the preparation of that development brief, over and above, obviously, what ends up in the adopted plan. And what's before you today is the suggestion to make that position as robust as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I could cover the agent of change. I think it's also just worth highlighting that, as said in the plan, we've got the development brief, and we've also got a requirement for any developer to come forward and agree an engagement strategy with us. And we'll be looking for that to be much closer to a standard development brief that the council would need, where they come to committee at certain times in a draft to agree consultation to then get some sort of possibly even sign off of it. So it's, the control would still have, much of the control would still lie with the area committee as a development brief, and then also planning applications would go to South Applications Committee. But in terms of the agent of change, yeah, this is something that the Scottish Government introduced the concept of, really in relation to live music venues and the impacts they were having from adjoining developments, essentially. But the principle is exactly the same. It's noise sensitive uses coming into an area where there's existing noise generating developments and the potential for that to impact on those existing businesses. So the Scottish Government has just released their National Planning Framework 4. There's that high level national policy that's been introduced, which isn't just arts and cultural venues, it's across any use that has that. We brought that into our council planning policy through the introduction of this plan. There's a specific new policy called industrial development, which we've included. And also we want to just reinforce it one step more by putting it in the developer requirements for this site. So it's set out at various stages that the development, and this would also apply to any expansion one. So it's not just existing operations, it would be them setting out clear assessment and mitigation that the uses, the existing uses and expansion land is completely protected from development.
Okay. You happy? Councillor Fraser, have you points to make?
Fine, there's no further comments there.
I would just like to, sorry, I missed that at the top of my page. NAO2, the former Schofield East.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, delighted that's now been zoned for community use, and just inform the committee that an application will be coming very shortly for a bowling green and a new clubhouse, which fully supportive of. So that community use, I think, will be utilised very, very shortly. So, any other issues to raise? Councillor Jarvie, any other issues to raise before we go?
I would support the bowling green going into the show field.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, as we move towards the recommendations, is there anything else anybody wishes to say? Councillor Jarvie? Councillor Fraser?
No.
Okay, therefore, can I forward that we note and agree the 4 recommendations that are in the report?
Yeah.
Yep, agreed. Okay, agreed. Thank you.
No.
Councillor Jarvie?
I'm without a respective reference to
Councillor
the
Jarvie,
local.
you've been asked either to agree or not agree with
No.
recommendations and the noting. So, okay, we'll take that. So you've not agreed with that, but that's carried by 3 to 1. So, on that basis, we'll move on the agenda. Okay, welcome back after that short break. We'll move on to item, the common good, and it's item 4A, and I'll ask Mr. Manning to introduce the item.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So the paper in front of you today is to update you on the impact of the invitation to pay donation-based parking scheme running in Nairn, running in 3 sites, Cumming Street, the Maggot and the Harbour. It went live on the 24th of May 2021, and it's into its 2nd year of operation. I think with certain difficulties that we had in getting a paper to you earlier at the end of the 1st year, the committee is now considering the impact of the scheme. From an officer's point of view, it's a good news story in that it's generating income at a local level, going directly into the Common Good Fund. And as per the paper, you can see the outruns from the site, 33,000 in the 1st financial year. And as of the end of September this year, the sites had generated nearly £21,500. There had been an initial position with the Common Good going on best policy available to us at the time that 50% of the income would be deposited directly with the Common Good Fund. Some points were raised by the community and others relating to that. Officers then reviewed the policy and have committed now that all funds, 100%, is deposited with the Common Good Fund to ensure full transparency. And then at the end of each financial year, we will submit costs to the committee to draw down from the Common Good Fund relating to card and cash transactions and the likes. Not going to be vast sums of money, but certainly the cost that the service has incurred in getting that money in the bank, to put it bluntly. So that's the paper in summary, members. There is an option here. We're asking members to approve, due to the success of the site, to continue it subject to annual review for the next, get to the top of my page here. Agree that the invitation to pay parking scheme continues in its current form at each of the 3 sites detailed for a further period of 4 years, but would be subject to reporting and annual review to the committee. Welcome any questions, members.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. I'm happy that we're raising money for the common good, and now 100% of the funds will be paid directly to the common good. However, I have a couple of points, and the first one, getting in ahead of Councillor Fraser, we need to see a detailed breakdown of the actual charges that are proposed being levied on the common good ahead of them actually being paid. So we would like to see that. And the second thing there's many issues to be addressed surrounding parking in the area and not just on the common goods sites. So I'd like to see a review of general traffic management in a wider area, not only the common good lands but the links area and the harbour. So I'd like to see, as I say, a general traffic management review, and that will be brought back to a future committee. So we'll discuss that at our ward business meeting, but I would like to see that review. So we'll go to Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I welcome the invitation to pay, which is bringing income to there at no cost to residents, which is great. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Manning. The first one is that, as he knows, we've had some questions about the signage for camper vans in the car park at Harbour Street, and I wonder whether he could confirm that that has now been sorted out. It is now not contradictory. The second thing is that we've been having questions about permit holder parking alongside the harbour, which the suggestion has been that it needs a TRO. I wonder whether you could update us on the actual legal status of that parking.
Thank you. I'll just respond to this one just now and then wait for any further questions. So as far as the contradictory signage at the harbour, yes, so what happened was obviously the original signage that went in predated the decision by members of the previous committee to allow motorhome parking. So I do apologise. We have corrected that anomaly at the site. So now the restriction on overnight motorhome parking that was in one of the clauses on the sign has been covered up. So I can assure you that's been dealt with. Permit parking. So as part of the discussions with the general harbour users that I entertained, difficult to say now, it was last year, they had raised concerns about access to the harbour. So when they were getting in and out of their boats and taking materials to and from their boats, it was quite difficult for them to park sometimes along the access road to the harbour. I conceded to them that I would look into getting a permit scheme put in, which would be based around their harbour dues and the fact that they're paying already the council to use that facility. And we implemented the permit scheme as a courtesy to the harbour users, but we do not enforce it. You know, it's at the moment it is a scheme that is designed to deter people from parking on the access road and to use the actual harbour parking area if you're a visitor or if you're leisure activities. My intention to actually enforce that site, I would be bringing forward a traffic regulation order amendment, Councillor.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Manning. Councillor Fraser.
So just clarify, are you thinking of bringing a report forward, or are you bringing a report forward?
Well, I think it's definitely something for discussion at a ward level before I even consider taking any further action, members. I would be wanting to get your views on general traffic management, as the chair has stated, that there is some need to look at the wider beachfront area of the links and the surrounding roads and make sure we're doing the best we can in a general traffic management assessment, and that would include potentially a TRO for these permit bays.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Councillor Jarvie.
Okay, right. Thank you, Officer Manning, for submitting the figures I asked for. That's really helpful. Could I just double check? Did you check that it was raised at a community council and someone else had raised it, that the £10 facility didn't work in one of the machines at either the Maggot or the harbour? Did you check that the machine was taking a tenner?
Well, thank you, Councillor. Yes, we did, and quite rightly so. There was an anomaly with the configuration of the machine, which we've now corrected.
Okay.
It was taking a lesser value. It wasn't taking the full £10, but that was just due to we reconfigured about 120 machines, and it happens overnight, and the configuration didn't come through to that machine, unfortunately. So it was well spotted, and I'm glad for the local input. We weren't able to pick that up ourselves, and now we've been able to collect it.
Okay, that's I will pass on your thanks. So roughly whereabouts was that? Because there's quite a difference in the income. That's a shame.
I'm not going to guess. I can't remember. I can go and find out when that should have happened and didn't happen. I'm not going to guess and give you a date that might be wrong. Impact on income. It would have had an impact on income potentially, yes, because the motorhomes would have been paying less than the £10. You know, they would have been paying the £5 maximum at the machine, I think. But when you look at the actual figures, the 2021 figures was 33,000. The motorhome didn't come in until 2022. And I just don't know exactly when that date was that the transfer was meant to happen. But in the first 6 months of this year, we've collected 21,000. And I think by the end of the year, we'll be very close to the 33,000 with another 6 months of income to be collected. Granted that it's much less income in the second 6 months than it is in the first 6 months of any financial year, because the first 6 months has the main summer season.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. And you can
Thank
get
you,
back
Councillor Jarvie.
with those figures. At least we got a fiver, and hopefully they'll come back to sunny Nairn, and that'll be great. Okay, that's good. Would you be doing an equality impact assessment?
Councillor Jarvie, this is not a debate. You raised your points, and we need to move on. I would like to thank Mr. Manning for his input, and I would like the committee to agree the recommendations 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Agreed. Thank you.
Agreed.
We'll move on to agreed. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to 4B, Harbour Street Public Toilets, the feasibility brief, and I'd ask Mr. Hanna to give us the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. This report respects the Harbour Street Public Toilet site and provides a draft feasibility or proposed feasibility study for consideration by the committee in respect of the potential future public toilet use and potential operating models at previously used Harbour Public Street Toilet site. And that draft feasibility study brief for the proposed brief is set out at Appendix 1 for consideration. There are some resource implications attached to this that we just touched on initially. Because this is common goods land, £18,000 of the various place-based investment funds were allocated to this project in March 2022 by this committee. Harbour Street is on common good land, therefore any additional costs associated with this project going forward beyond that will have an implication on the nature of common good funds responsible for that to start. In terms of some backgrounds, the Harbour Street public toilets in Nairn were closed following a decision taken at the full council on 25th of October 2018 regarding the rationalisation of public conveniences across Highland. There's currently no service budget to reopen the Harbour Street public toilets following that decision. However, I think as members, as you're all aware, since that decision there's been considerable community debate around the site and how it might be reopened as a public toilet. So the proposed feasibility study brief proposes that we examine potential operating models for the former Harbour Street public toilet site, fundamentally allowing the site to be split into 2 distinct parts. The feasibility study will explore the roadside facing area of the toilet site in terms of its potential for a common good fund retail or hospitality rental unit, the rental income of which will be used to fund the operating costs of a public toilet at the rear riverside facing area of the site. Feasibility will also explore the potential to incorporate some motorhome waste disposal facilities on the site on a minimal but full cost recovery basis. So as I say, the full feasibility study brief is attached to the report at Appendix 1, and I'm happy to take questions or comments, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanna, for an excellent report. I'll just suggest that we will provide a long-term solution, which is to be welcome. Now, Councillor Oldham has provided a potential way to alleviate the problem in the short term, and I would ask him to enlighten us with his suggestion.
Yeah.
Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. One of the problems with this is we are talking about a relatively long-term solution here, if we can bring this off. One thing that has been raised to me by community councils is the possibility of introducing a comfort scheme in there, and I believe these are operating in other parts of the Highlands. This is where facilities which have toilets open them to the public in return for some sort of fee. There are obvious places around the area we're talking about, like Sundancer, like the campsite. I think that'd be worth us investigating. Maybe we could discuss at future area committee, and future business meeting, and bring it to a future area committee.
Okay. Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Mr. Hannon?
I'm happy to take that action away, and I can maybe speak to our colleagues in the estates, property and estates team, and we've got quite a number of common good funds tenants that operate premises that have toilets, so we can explore that and bring that back to any business meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jarvie, have you a point you wish to make?
Oh no, I'm all for the feasibility study. That's a big issue, the loos down there, and it might make it a less vandalising kind of place if there's a business attached to it. So, but I'm not so sure about the disposal, the waste disposal bit being there with people's houses. That should maybe be over the market side, but we'll see what the consultation throws up. So, but yes,
Okay, that's fine.
that's
Thank you.
all for it.
Okay. Councillor Fraser?
No, that's fine, I'm going with that.
Okay, that's fine. And could we agree the draft feasibility brief set out in Appendix 1? Agree. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item 4C, the Sandown community food growing, the feasibility brief. I'll again turn to Mr. Hanna.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this report presents another proposed feasibility brief. You recall the Nairnshire Area Committee in August this year agreed that a feasibility study would be progressed to explore the potential for developing community food growing on the Sandown lands in Nairn. And that followed public feedback received as part of the statutory consultation on the future use of the Sandown lands. And at that committee, has yet agreed that a draft feasibility study would be developed. In terms of the resource implications for this, the Sandown lands are common good, and any associated feasibility study will have an implication for the Nairnshire Common Good Fund. It's estimated that the feasibility study will cost around £18,000 to carry out, and that cost will be met by the Common Good Fund from the 22-23 operating surplus, currently estimated to be in £71,000, and that's been estimated today. In terms of some background to this, the Sandown lands is an area of farming and community land on the western approach to town of Nairn of A96, as you're aware, and it's shown in the plan contained in Appendix 2. And as I said, that Sandown land area is an income asset. The statutory public consultation that I mentioned expressed quite a strong desire to develop part of the land for amenity, community food and also some clean energy use, and that's all explored in the feasibility study brief. The brief explores the potential of that East Sandown field, which is shown in Figure Appendix 2, hatched in pink, to contribute to food security through community growing and energy security through some green energy projects. There's a couple of key points in the feasibility that let's touch on as well. The feasibility study will explore and set out how this potential might be met, present a range of potential delivery models, including social enterprise models, to try and allow the community to take the lead and work with us to develop the project. So I know there's some real interest in the community and what takes place on Sandown. Another point was that the feasibility outcome should set out what this project does look like at Sandown, and set out how the land would be used to deliver food and energy outputs as well as the land use. And those outcomes should be defined around community benefit, environmental benefit, and also financial benefit. So I'm happy to take any questions or comments.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hanna. This has all arisen as a result of effective engagement and consultation. This is the outcome people wanted, and it's an opportunity for not only the well-known local third sector and voluntary organisations, but for individuals and organisations to experiment with new community-run business models. Look around you, do your research, see what works elsewhere. There has never been a better opportunity. So, I'll open that up. Councillor Fraser.
The thing that hit me straight away was the £18,000, because we're only bringing in about £5,000 a year from the rental from the fields. I just think it's a very, very, it's a substantial sum of money just for I don't see the full benefit at the end of it. Obviously there's a benefit there, but I just don't see the justification for the cost. That's my only concern.
Okay, that's noted.
My bit.
That's noted. Councillor Jarvie?
I agree, Laura, it's a lot of money, but these feasibility studies usually do, and it'll be sort of fairly independent, which I think is good for Nairn. And there's so many options on the climate change front, so much modern technology, and throughout the consultation, people, locals, were throwing out really good of ideas, but quite a wide variety, so they need properly explored because it could be quite costly. It's a huge area. So I think we do need a quality feasibility study done. So I know it's costly, but I think we need to support it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Oldham?
Thank you, Chair. Really just to say I agree with Councillor Jarvie, we do need a feasibility study, given what we agreed at the last meeting.
Okay. Right. Okay. Can we agree the draft feasibility study brief?
Yep.
And the use of the 18,000 for Nairn Common Good Fund?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and again, Mr. Hannah, thank you for a good report. We'll move on to the 4D, which is a Nairn Common Good Fund, and I'll again turn to Mr. Hannah. Monitoring report.
Thank you, Chair. This is our regular report to the committee, and it provides information on income and expenditure in relation to the Nairn Common Good Fund as at 30th September 2022. Provides an update on current Nairn Common Good Fund issues, and it invites members to scrutinise the noted position of the Nairn Common Good Fund as shown in the Q2 monitoring statement, second appendix 1. In terms of resource implications of this report, financial implications are as outlined in this report. Expenditure continues to be kept to within the generated operating surplus to allow the Nairn Common Good Fund to continue to build reserves for future projects and develop the Nairn Common Good Fund assets, as well as the replacement of or maintenance of.
Can you speak up?
Can we move on?
Councillor Jarvie. Councillor Jarvie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, apologies. I'll just return to the resource implications. So, the financial implications are as outlined in this report. However, it's worth noting that expenditure continues to be kept within the generated surplus of the Nairnshire Common Good Fund to allow the fund to continue to build reserves for future projects and the development of Nairn Common Good Fund assets, as well as the replacement of or maintenance of new assets, such as the splash pad and wider loads projects, such as the ones that we discussed earlier. In terms of the Q2 revenue monitoring report, there's a monitoring statement attached showing transactions against budget for the period 30th September 2022 and the estimated 22-23 year-end position is detailed in Appendix 1. Members should like to note that the unaudited balance of the usable reserves at 31st March 2022 was 747,453. It's worth noting that Lighting's income principally relates to the Nairn Games was higher than expected due to income received from commercial traders, and as a result, that outturn has been increased to £15,705. In terms of expenditure, limited expenditure has been incurred and reported in the year to date. That's largely due to internal transactions and recharges that have yet to take place in terms of grounds maintenance and other maintenance down at the links. And there'll be additional Nairn Common Good Fund expenditure incurred in respect of the car park sites and the administration related to the invitation to pay scheme as reported earlier to the committee. And that cost will be met from the additional parking income now accrued to the fund. In terms of our annual surplus, currently our annual surplus is expected to return at 71,854, and that's something to be added to reserves in due course. Our Nairn Common Good Fund investments, as reported, officers have confirmed to me in the accounts that the value of the fund decreased by 2.5% over the quarter ending 13th of September in comparison to a benchmark fall over the quarter of 4.6%. And overall the fund has fallen by 16.6. You'll note at 5.1, and that really is a reflection of the current financial situation nationally. It's a disappointing drop, but it just reflects the current situation across the country. I'm happy to take questions on the report or the appendices, Chair?
Thank you. Before I open it up, just for clarity, the monitoring report represents the commercial activity of the common good, not the total value, i.e. assets. The total value of the Nairn common good is detailed in the yearly accounts, so for clarity. Now, there was an action point from the last area committee regarding the level of detail provided in the accounts, and Councillor Oldham will give us an update on that.
Well, also as an update, it was more that is just an action which we had outstanding. I was hoping that we could get confirmation as to what was going to be happening with that. The other thing which I would just like to raise for the committee is that I'm a member of the investment subcommittee, which manages our funds, and the investment subcommittee decides on how those funds are being managed based on the views of the area committee. Now, currently, those funds have been based on the basis of growth rather than of income. I think that since we are a new area committee, we should at least formally review the recommendations which we are making to the investment subcommittee. I'd like to see that come to a future area committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's two sensible points. Mr. Hanna, if you could give a detail, an outline of what we've agreed for greater transparency on the accounts, and also take it as an action point to agree for the pensions committee to come along and for the new committee to determine how we allocate the funds.
Thanks, Chair. I'll speak to colleagues regarding that second point. In terms of the first points, I've been in discussion with accountancy colleagues, and we're developing a suite of operational budget monitoring reports that we're proposing to take to our business meeting for discussion and comment, and we're planning to do that quarterly before area committee, starting in advance of the next area committee. Those operational budget reports will be focusing on the income and expenditure related to the common good, and we look forward to presenting that to members in some detail about our business.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you. Councillor Jarvie.
Right, that's fine. If things are coming forward and officers can advise us when that comes forward. So, but yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Jarvie. Councillor Fraser.
Yeah, I'm quite very positive this one with the surfaces and any movement on that demolishing that shed.
Oh yes.
Thanks, Councillor Fraser. Yeah, I've been in further discussions with our maintenance colleagues. I've had a couple of meetings with the senior maintenance officer for the area, because you'll recall that the projected costs for demolishing the shed, making safe the electrical supply, and turning off the water were considerably higher than the budgeted amount of I think it was £5,000 that we put in the budget. So I've asked maintenance to go back to their contractor and discuss the extent of the works. And we've managed to get the figure back down in line with the budgeted amount of £5,000. So we're still hoping that it's going to be in line with that, or thereabouts. But I will be having further discussions with maintenance colleagues as that progresses.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Therefore, can we vote and
It's noted.
just voting?
Yeah, noted.
So voted that, and we'll go to the last item 5, the minutes.
There's noted as well.
Noting as well. So
yeah,
agreed. Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you.